this is a process that can and reasonably should be reformed. I think that's exactly what the president talked about today. I think it's also objectively looking at the process. We have seen a decrease in the number of earmarks over the past several years. That's part of good progress, but as the president said today, it was time to take change one step further. He talked about increasing the transparency that's involved. I mean, part of the reason we get into these problems is we have what you had today, was an appropriations bill that, first of all, should have been completed by September 30th of 2008. It's now March the 11th, 2009. It's also a piece of legislation that contains 9 of the 13 appropriations bills, all lumped into one. The president spoke today that Congress instead should have bills go through a regular process, be considered one by one, going through that regular order, increasing that transparency, will increase the scrutiny on individual earmarks. That will necessarily cut down the number that are seen in pieces of legislation. And I think the president was clear that if there are earmarks that get through the process that he thinks are unnecessary, he will work on a vehicle to remove those from our spending priorities. And
now is that he can request they be removed, and it goes to Congress, and they can just shove it in a drawer.
Right.
Another way to do that is for the president to have the authority for that list to be considered under a certain time. So why wouldn't he come out and endorse?
Well, I think that's. I think if you look closely at his remarks, he looks forward to working through a process that allows that to happen. And I think the budget. Well, I don't have the remarks in front of me, but I think it was pretty explicit that if the process, if something got through the process, you could at that point consider a separate piece of legislation to do that. Obviously, you mentioned this. It's one thing to stand up and pound your fist, and certainly the president has done that about a process that he believes is out of control. But now we have to work with Congress to institute reforms that can work, because as you mentioned, it doesn't do anybody any good to send up a rescissions package that becomes a piece of paper in somebody's file drawer. That's why. Well, he would like to work with Congress to figure out a process to make something like that possible. That's why the director of OMB mentioned yesterday in testifying to Congress that if that his department is looking through the spending bill, will make a recommendation. Staff will make a recommendation about proceeding further with that. But I don't take my word for it. You rarely do anyway. But I don't mean you personally. I meant you all. But I mean, I know that. Did that hurt? Did that seem stunning? Okay. But I think that look at somebody like Norm Ornstein, who's followed Congress and watched the process of appropriations go back and forth, and understand that today marks, I think what he said was the beginning of significant or continued significant reform on this process. Obviously, we've seen the process in past years get out of control, and the president is encouraged to take steps to bring about some control. Yes, sir.
Robert, we understand that the president will be meeting with the Chinese foreign minister on Thursday. To what extent will the naval confrontation this week overshadow that meeting? And secondly, will the president bring up China's currency with the foreign minister? And as an addendum to that, to what extent will that be important at the G20 meeting as well?
Well, let me say that the foreign minister will meet with Secretary Clinton today. We'll meet tomorrow with National Security Advisor Jim Jones, and they will both meet then with the president. The president looks forward to discussing issues of mutual concern with the Chinese foreign minister, including our global economic crisis. And the incident involving the boats of the two countries will be on that list for discussion. I don't think it will overshadow it, but I think the president will continue to make clear our country's position.